Good morning, everybody, and welcome into To The Point. Hope you're all doing well here on a Thursday with lots to dive into. NFL schedule release today. We got NHL, NBA, some UFC news. So excited to talk about a number of different things with all of you today. And watching the games in the NHL the last couple nights, I have some overarching thoughts. Today, I'm watching a team that I was trying to figure out, how is this team winning? I mean, I know why they're winning. They play this style, and I'll get to that team later on in the show. But I have a comparison to this team to another team that won. And I'm not certain this team will win the cup, but if they do, it's because they look a lot like this team to me. They look like a past champion and in the NHL. So I'm going to get into that later on in the program. We're going to talk about Keith Jones, the Flyers' new president. Keith Jones with Danny Briere. Danny Briere, very limited experience. Keith Jones has been working at Turner, working at Bally Sports Philadelphia for the last 20-plus years. Interesting decision. He knows Philly. They love him in Philly. I get that. Wouldn't have been my particular choice, but interesting nonetheless. So lots to get into today. But let's start in South Florida last night with the Toronto Maple Leafs staving off elimination, forcing Game 5 back in the 6th Friday night, defeating the Florida Panthers 2-1. A lot of different things from this game, a lot of very interesting points. But the overarching thing coming from the game for me, it's not, well, is Toronto going to come back and win the series? That's secondary. That's not top of the line stuff for me. It's just looking at the game last night and how they won. I don't believe the Toronto Maple Leafs, with this iteration of Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Riley, you throw in whoever you want. I don't think the team of the core players played a better defensive game than they did last night. They blocked a ton of shots. They blocked more than they got credit for. I agree with Kevin Bieksa. He said that during the intermission. They did not allow Florida to generate anything. Florida couldn't get two passes together in the offensive zone. The puck was bouncing. Maybe you just don't get puck luck. But there's also the Leafs worked hard. They were in lanes, their sticks. It was a glove. It didn't matter. The whole team bought in. The whole team said, we are not losing tonight. And that's why I'm not going into, are they going to win the series? Because it's one game. But the way they played last night, it was a defensive masterpiece. They were a maestro. It was a symphony of excellence. I thought they never wavered. They never gave up an odd man rush that was really all that threatening. If Carter Verhaeghe got the puck, Luke Schenn would get a stick in the way, or Mark Giordano would recover after blowing a stick and then blowing a skate on the same shift. There were people in positions. This has been something I've been talking about this team forever. Their forwards gave a shit. Their forwards came back. Their forwards were engaged. They were ready to play. And it was truly a shift in how this team does business. It was a shift in seeing this team care more about keeping the puck out of their net than scoring on the other end. And part of the reason why this shift was necessary is Toronto isn't scoring more than 2 goals a game. They're averaging 2 goals a game in their last 6 games. And you score 2 goals a game, you're not going to win that many. The Leafs fans have blamed referees, they blame players, they blame everybody, the coaches. If you're not scoring goals, you're not going to win, period. That the game will never change in that realm. So looking at all of this, they bought in and they said, you know what? We are going to win 2-1 tonight. And they've never had that mentality. They've never said, okay, we'll win 2-1. We're okay with this result. We're not afraid of it. The entire team bought in, and they deserve credit for saying, we're going to win a 2-1 game. We're going to block every shot. We're going to be prepped in the key situations, and it was beautiful to watch. I mean, beautiful in the sense if you love hockey and you like seeing the game itself. Last night's game was not all that entertaining. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it was enough to win. It was the way they felt they had to win last night. And I credit them for doing something they've never done, which is care as much about the other end as they do about scoring goals. And it's hard. It's hard to do that. I understand that. When you're a goal scorer, you want to score goals. But for Austin Matthews, who's been dog shit in this series, it was necessary. Because I don't think he played that well offensively I don't think he played well again offensively last night. He was just okay. But the entire team are in shooting lanes. They were prepped, and Florida didn't have an answer. Florida's only goal was on a power play. If I really look at high-quality scoring chances, I don't know if Florida had 5. I'm sure it'll say more than 5 on the analytics and the stat tracking and all that. Hooah. But I don't think they did. I don't think they got many great scoring opportunities on Joseph Wall. If we're really tracking high-quality scoring chances in front of that, really good looks, how many did they get? Because when they did, it went in. When they got the puck to the front of the net, it went in the net. But the Leafs played a style that I've never seen them play, and they won. Now, here's the rub for me. I don't think any team can do that for 4 games in a row. That includes the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Islanders, any team that doesn't have the skill. I don't think you can win that way they played last night for 4 games in a row because it's so difficult. It's not easy to be passive, to be so worried. It's like being a helicopter parent. You see your kid go over to the slide, and you got to run over to be with them. So sometimes you have to allow the person who's supposed to be defending that player to do that. You don't come over with the help defense. You don't go over and help your kid on the swing. You allow them to learn, and if they fall and they injure themselves, that's a learning lesson in and of itself. So for the Leafs, play defensively, yes. Be in the shooting lanes, absolutely. But the key thing is be defensive, but you have to open it up a bit. Because if the thought is we can win this way 3 more times, you're not going to. They're not going to. Trust me. Trust me, they're not. And the way you came into this series, nobody thought they'd win a game like they did last night. A 2-1, block shots, defensive mentality. So what the Leafs need to do, and this gets to the bigger overarching thought, if they're going to win this series, if they're going to come back, make it interesting, because it isn't interesting yet. 3-1 isn't interesting. You win 1 game. Way to go. You need to win 4. To really make this interesting, they need to continue what they did last night, blocking shots, be defensively sound, but they need to open up their game some because it's too limited to play that way 3 more times. It's just not going to be the result that you want. So what my thought is yes, be in the shooting lanes. Yes, be present defensively. But you can do that. How about just don't jailbreak out of the zone? You notice how they didn't do that last night? You notice how they didn't throw that flip pass into the center ice where that Florida does? I hate the teams that do this, where they have a winger up there, and 9 times out of 10, the team that's just trying for that flip pass, the stretch pass, it doesn't work. The Leafs did that 0 times last night. Have your offensive players in your own zone. Be ready for exit zone passes, but break out in stride. 3 guys, have your defensemen aggressive, jump into the rush, and create scoring opportunities. Don't play so passive. Use your speed because, again, Florida is not going to be faster than you on Friday. They're never going to be faster than you. They could do cardio for fucking another 10 hours. They're not going to match it. So use your advantages. Look at Mark Stahl. They still haven't done this in this series. Look at Mark Stahl and burn him. He is slow as molasses. The fact that he hasn't been exposed yet in this series is mind-boggling to me. He's still in the league somehow. I don't get it. He's no good. He doesn't bring anything to the table. He's got a long stick. It's always got giraffe arms, and he's got a long stick. Other than that, he brings nothing of value or substance to this series. Attack him. Attack him, attack him, attack him. Radko Gudas, not exactly fast. I don't think the Leafs really want to deal with him. Probably for good reason. But again, you see him. He's not the fastest guy on the ice. You can get by him easily. Attack, attack, attack. So for the Maple Leafs to truly win, to come back in this series, it's not play that style that they did last night 3 more times. And if somebody tells you that, you listen to another podcast today, you listen to over whatever you like to listen to, they're wrong. They're wrong because it can't be done. The Kings didn't do that in 2014. The Flyers didn't do that in 2010. Every game is different. Every time you do something, it's right. If it's Groundhog Day, you have the same day over and over again. Why would you live life? That is boring. It's like eating the same meal over and over again. I used to do that. Believe me, it sucked. And you get sick of it. You got to make some changes. Not every painting, not every drawing, everything is, you look at it differently. And truly, for the Leafs to win, they need to open it up. They need their best players to be their best players. I said this off the top. I don't think Austin Matthews was good last night. And 2 things can be true. The Leafs won the game. Matthews cannot play well. That's another thing that needs to be talked about more as a whole. When you're talking about players, your team can still win and your best players suck. I think 3 of these 4 games, Austin Matthews has been average to below average. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. I'm wrong about a lot. Sports rarely. But I think if he's your best player, which some people think he's the best player in the world, you got to present that. You got to be scary. You got to scare the hell out of the opposition on every shot. He's not doing that. He's not doing that, and he should create more opportunities. And guess what? Getting to the net, hitting Bobrovsky's stick, riding up, not going in the net, you got to score. Okay? You're a fucking goal scorer. That's what you're known for. Put one in the back of the net. Now, looking at the Toronto side of things for the other best players. Bill Nylander, like him or hate him, which I get either way, because there's nights you want to strangle him, and there's nights he's your best player. Out of Marner, Tavares, Matthews, O'Reilly, just the best offensive players. William Nylander is the most consistent playoff performer on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Up front. It's not close. He's been pretty damn good in most postseasons. Is he going to care going into the corner every time? No. Is he going to back check consistently every time? No. Made some good defensive plays last night, however. But he is always around the puck. He is always creating something. And he gets a lucky bounce and he scores a goal on the power play. But guess what? He scored the goal. Matthews didn't. He consistently brings it. He consistently has jump, has compete, and I don't think you have to bring that out of him in the postseason. Maybe in the regular season when he doesn't care in game 64. Who cares? Who gives a shit? People complain about hasn't scored a goal in 5 games, whatever. Okay. Worry about his next contract. He'll be somebody else. Did I just say that? He always is around the puck. He's always doing something consistent. He's 9 times out of 10, it's a positive thing when he has the puck. And I truly believe that. So I think he needs to continue. Don't change. Continue to do what you're doing. There'll be people, Leafs fans, that say they love the Leafs but hate William Nylander. Who cares about them? They're losers anyway. Forget about them. Continue to play your game. The other guy last night for me who had a good game, I thought he had a horrible first 40 minutes. like he has for 90% of this postseason. I thought through 40 minutes, Mitch Marner was game 3. That was brutal. He had a great last 20, not because he scored a goal, because again, that's another pet peeve of mine. You score a goal, you had a good game. Wrong. I learned that from my parents early on in life, just in playing hockey. Just because you scored a goal doesn't mean you played well. How'd you play the rest of the game? Did you have any jump? Did you do any of this? Through 40, he had an assist on the Nylander goal, so by the metrics, he was having a great game. Wasn't. The last 20 minutes, he was all over the puck. He created space for himself, and he was smart. And he had a little more dog in him last night. He had a little more bite. He'll never be the big dog. He'll never be a scary figure on the ice because he's Mitch Marner and he's 160 pounds. But what he can bring to the table, what he can do, he did last night. That is the game changer in this series for me. It's him playing well consistently because throughout the regular season, he was their best player. Not Austin Matthews, not Bill Nylander. Mitch Marner was the straw that stirs the drink. And he can continue to do that. It's tougher in the postseason because there's tight checking. There's not a whole lot of space. But what he did in the third period, you see on his goal, he gets to the top of the ice, gets to the blue line, he shoots a puck, traffic in front. How about cycle the puck around and get the defense, which isn't that good on Florida, as we documented, open up. Get them to open up, and then you find a guy cross ice for a tap-in. Just be creative. Be the guy that you were in the regular season, just a little more agitated, like he was last night. And here's another thing. Just because you win the game doesn't mean you can't make adjustments. Because if something's not working and you won, doesn't mean you just bail. Oh, we'll stick with it. No, you gotta look at what you're doing and is this positive, is this negative, and go through that process. 2 things. On the power play, it is inexcusable to me that William Nylander is not on the top unit. I do not care if Sheldon Keefe has to take off Ryan O'Reilly. I don't care if he has to take off John Tavares. I believe he won't take off John Tavares because John Tavares is pajama boy. John Tavares is the captain. And for whatever reason, in pro sports, you have to care about feelings. I don't get it. I never will get it. The sentimental crap. There's different stuff in life. There's different businesses. I think if you're working in different places, you got to care about feelings more. In pro sports, no. And it's not like you're scratching him. He's on the second power play unit. John Tavares or Ryan O'Reilly. Pick one. I don't care. They do the same thing. They should both. One of them should be on the second unit. Nylander is the most dangerous person on the Leafs power play. Yes, more than Marner, more than 34 with his C cuts out there. It's William Nylander. Have him on the top power play unit. It wasn't working in the regular season, so you changed it. Fuck the regular season. That was a month ago. Things change. Sheldon Keefe, you love to put things into a blender. You like to change things up. Oh, we got to do this, make this change. Well, use it now. Guess what? You scored a power play goal last night that was your saving grace in the game. Guess who was on the ice? And it wasn't because he started on the power play, because there was a fucking line change. William Nylander. Not Matthews, not Marner, not O'Reilly, not Tavares, not Riley. It was William Nylander. Easy, simple change. Get him on the power play. There's number 1. Number 2. Matthews and Marner should not be playing together. William Nylander should be playing with Austin Matthews, and here's why. Matthews is skating like he has cement in his skates. Excuse me. He is playing timid. He doesn't like to get in scrums. He clearly doesn't like physical confrontation. I don't think he likes to get hit. That's not what I'm asking him to do. William Nylander creates opportunities because he puts the burners on and because he's skating well. Maybe that can be infectious on the team's best player. Have some jump. Put him with somebody that starts every game ready to go, in my opinion. Marner doesn't. Again, first 40 minutes last night, snore. Garbage. Have him with Nylander, please. Marner, I'd play Marner with O'Reilly. Myself, I don't think they're going to do that for whatever reason, but I don't think they're going to do it. It's perplexing, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm not a coach. Maybe I should just shut up. But that's just, I see some of this around hockey, and it's just, anyway, I'll get off that tangent. But that's what I would do personally. That's what I would do, and because it makes too much. You watch the game, they win 2-1 because they had the best defensive game ever. My point earlier, they're not going to win 4 more times like that. 3-0. They're not going to win 3 more times like that. And if you're scoring 2 goals per game, which they have the last 6, you know what? You're not going to win the series. You're not going to win 3 in a row if your best players aren't scoring goals. And if you average 2 goals a game the next 3, I'll go to Vegas on you not winning that series. 5-on-5, you're not creating enough. And that needs to change. For Florida. Florida couldn't break through the brick wall last night. I thought the Duclair, Barkov, Verhaeghe line had their worst game of the series because I think they've been great. I look at Game 5 as a massive opportunity for Matthew Tkachuk. He has 0 goals in the series. He's got 4 assists in 4 games, which is solid, not great. Tkachuk, Bennett, Cousins. I think Tkachuk needs to have a game where he's the best player. If they're going to win for Game 5 for him, you're on the road. I think he loves playing on the road. Because the fans in Toronto hate him now. He was beating up Mitch Marner at the end of the game last night, which I had no problem with. And I'll get to that in a minute. But he needs to have a game where he's all over the puck. He's attacking the defense, creating opportunities, getting pucks to the middle of the ice. And he's absolutely capable of doing it because he's one of the best players in the world. But finding that space, finding that opportunity, that's what I think Matthew Tkachuk needs to do. Get to the dirty areas, find a way to score some goals. And if I'm Florida, I'm not panicking yet. I'm not changing my lines. I'm not doing anything like that because I think it's been working for them. They know who they are as a team. And we'll see what Paul Maurice decides to do, but I don't think he's going to panic. It's one game, and I think he has confidence in his team. The Lundell, Reinhart line, they were their best line again last night, but it's their third line. That can't be the case. They were 5-on-5. They were the most dynamic, and they're the line that was around the puck the most. Tkachuk, Bennett, if you want to close it out in Game 5, I think they need to be great. They've been okay since Game 2. This game also had some rough stuff, and there's a lot of debate on Twitter, and I poked a bear with just people from Rexton that I know that I can just something I love to do, and this is not a good trait, but I like to just throw some chum in the water, just a take that's like a half take that I know people will just completely hate, and then leave the conversation. It's something I really enjoy doing, and again, it's a negative thing that I do, but again, you have enough people that are passionate about it. Normally Leafs fans are people that hate the Leafs, so it's easy to get that conversation moving in the direction that I want it to. But in the middle of the second period last night, there's a delayed penalty on TJ Brody for holding the stick. And David Camp, who might have been through again, through 60 minutes, the Leafs' best forward last night. Credit to him. He's got the puck. They blow the whistle. But as he's touching the puck, Radko Gudas, the woodsman, is coming at him and completely buries him. All I heard was that was dirty, that was charging, that shouldn't have happened. Okay. I disagree. Here's why I disagree. It's a bang-bang play. TJ Brody's going to David Kamp's going to touch the puck. Radko Gudas is skating towards a man looking to finish a hit. What's he supposed to do on that play? He's moving fast. He's supposed to hold up. He's supposed to not throw the hit. Again, you can hit a guy when he has the puck. They blow the whistle. It's right alongside each other. So that's not a dirty play. It was not after the whistle. It was right at the whistle. That's not a penalty. It wasn't charging. It wasn't roughing. It was a check. David Kampf wasn't ready for it. True. That's not Radko Gudas' fault. That's not the fault of Radko Gudas for being prepared to hit somebody. And to me, typical Radko Gudas, dirty play. Enough of that. And then, at the end of the game, there's the skirmish, and the Leafs started it by being pissed off that Sam Bennett threw a hit with 4 seconds left. There's 4 seconds left in the game. The game's not over until the whistle blows at 0.00. And what happened there? You play till the end of the game. Maybe Morgan Rielly didn't think that was happening, and then he gets hit, and they didn't like it. Matthew Tkachuk ragdolls Mitch Marner, and Sam Bennett gets a few shots in on, I forget who now, while he was on the ice. Toronto doesn't like it, do something about it in Game 5. You got Luke Schenn on the ice. Have him out there. Go after Sam Bennett. Send him a message. Other than that, shut up. Shut up. Florida's the more physical team. They're the most physically imposing. They have more players that can hurt you. Sure, use what you can to your advantage. I just didn't, dirty this, dirty that last night. It's a lazy argument, in my opinion. It's not one that makes a whole lot of sense to me, but hey, I'm no Leaf fan, but I'm no Panther fan. I'm just watching the games. Credit to both goaltenders last night. I don't think either goaltender had a tough night, but Joseph Woll did what he had to do. He was solid in between the pipes. And for a rookie goaltender, he looked incredibly poised. So he deserves credit for stepping up in that situation and playing well. So good for him. So good for him for being in that situation and taking it on. Because we've seen goalies wilt. We've seen guys just not have it. To me, there's only one decision. You start him, not Matt Murray. Matt Murray didn't deserve to be in the net. But the Leafs win. That's the news of the day. What happened after, the physical stuff. You win one game. You can't play that way another 3 times and think you're going to win the series. I just don't think it's going to happen. No team has played that style 3 games in a row and won them. Carolina doesn't do it. And Carolina is the best defensive team in the NHL. The Kings didn't do it when they were down 3-0. The Flyers didn't do it when they were down 3-0. So I think the game has to open up a little bit for the Maple Leafs to win the series. I'm not saying you're going to win the game 7-6. But to expect to win 2-1 and have less than 25 shots, not happening. Not happening. But they win in Sunrise. The series flips back to Toronto Friday night. So we'll see what happens then. Let's head to Edmonton, Alberta, where this has been a a weird series. It's odd games. Vegas Golden Knights crush the Oilers. Even games, the Edmonton Oilers crush the Vegas Golden Knights. And you watch Edmonton last night, and the way they started the game, and the way they start most games, it's impressive. They come out like a bat out of hell, hitting you, getting in the key areas, and scoring goals. I mean, last night, Nick Bukestad, a deadline acquisition, strips Shea Theodore of the puck. Puck gets to Klim Kostin. He shoots it, misses the net. Bukestad wraparound, buries the goal, makes it 1-0. Then, on Theodore's next shift, he takes a stupid spearing penalty on Kostin. Bouchard scores on the power play. It's 2-0 before you know it. Edmonton loves starting games fast, and what I think really makes them different and what separates them from a lot of teams is the way they physically play. They hit you hard. They don't make it easy on you. And a lot of it is not just hitting after the play. It's hitting somebody to separate from the puck. It's doing whatever you have to do to create scoring opportunities. It's a tough go for the Vegas Golden Knights defense because Edmonton's so much bigger, so much heavier than they used to be. Evander Kane is going to come at you, and he's not easy to deal with. He's a guy that can score goals, but he's also a guy that's going to wear you down. And you have to be prepared for that. And you have to be ready for that war. But to me, last night, Edmonton just came out with a purpose. They came out with meaning, and they weren't going to lose that game. You knew it from the beginning. It was 3-0 after the first period. And they outshot them by nearly 10 shots. Adin Hill wasn't ready for the war that was coming at him. But it was a pretty simplistic game because, look, Draisaitl played 19 minutes last night. Bouchard only played 20. Ekholm played 18. McDavid played 21. Still not a whole lot for him. Darnell Nurse played 23 good minutes. So it was an easy game for the Oilers. And to me, what they did, what was so great, is that if they're going to win this series, it's 2-2, and I've said every other game, the other team is blowing the other out. Counterpunch with their speed. You fly down the wing, you get a good scoring opportunity, then the Oilers come back with numbers, and they're more likely to score on an odd man rush than you are. And I think they're more willing to play that freewheeling, high-risk game. They will play that with you every time. Vegas is structured. We're going to take away the neutral zone like they did in Game 3. We're going to take away the neutral zone. We're going to have guys back. No easy entries into our zone. But the game started last night at a frantic pace, and Vegas couldn't keep up. And before you know it, they're lost, and Edmonton's just doing circles around them. They're in the sand, and you're just in the ATV, and you're doing circles, and you can't see a foot in front of you. That was Edmonton. They just came out and said, enough of this style of game that we're playing. It's not working. We're not going to let you impose your will on us. We are going to play our style whether you want us to or not, because that is the way we're approaching this game. So for the Oilers, they need to be able to counterpunch. They need to play freewheeling hockey, but with also having some structure, the Matthias Ekholms of the world. And the biggest thing for the Oilers, Ekholm scores last night. Bouchard scores. Bukestad. McDavid had 2 assists. McDavid's been okay in these playoffs. Not great. He's been just okay. Draisaitl hasn't scored in 2 games. They're still winning. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who I mentioned the other day, he needed to find himself on the score sheet. He had 2 points. That's a positive. I think both these teams are really good, personally. I think both these teams are fantastic. They play vastly different styles. They both have goaltenders that you look at and you go, how is one of these teams going to be in the conference final with this guy in net? We could say that for the whole entire NHL. But game 5 should be fine because it's back in Vegas. And how do they change it up? How do they approach, getting line matching and having defensive responsibilities with the right guys? Now, another thing for Vegas, and this for me is a big one. They are a physical bunch, and yet I don't see it enough. They need to go into corners and separate guys from pucks. They need to make the Oilers' defense feel it more. Barbashev, Amadio, Will Carrier, Mark Stone. Make the Oilers' defense know you're there. Because I believe right now, as the Golden Knights wake up this morning, whether they stayed in Edmonton or they flew back to Vegas after the game last night, they are more hurt. They have more bruises than the Edmonton defense. And it shouldn't be a wide margin because they played almost the same number of games. I think Vegas is hurting more. Because Evander Kane goes in there and he's got the intent to injure. He's got the intent to hurt you. Same with Bukestad. Klim Kostin is a mammoth of a man. Draisaitl is a power forward that will knock you the fuck over. For Vegas, establish that more. Make Edmonton's defense make decisions. Make them a little worried. Make them not want to take that hit. That's half the battle. Desharnais is going to make stupid decisions with the puck because that's Vinny Desharnais and that's his MO. But make Kulak, who isn't exactly a huge man. Make Ceci. Make some of these defensemen that like to make errors on a good day. Make them make that error even easier because they're afraid of taking the hit or their body's wounded. They don't want to take anymore, and it's a battle of wills. These two teams can both play that way. I see one team doing it, the other is not. It's easier to win when you're feeling better than when you're hurt. It's one thing in the UFC when you take a shot and the guy goes down, is on the ground. You can go down and pounce on him. Yes, you could recover, turn it into a submission, and ultimately win the fight. But you'd rather be the one in top position looking to throw a couple more strikes and finish it there. You don't have to scramble. You don't have to figure it out. It's an easier way to finish things. Now, this game also had some nefarious activity at the end of the game. So, in the third period, Draisaitl's flying down the wing. Alex Pietrangelo, who's been fantastic in this series for Vegas, with one hand, a massive slash over the wrist of Leon Draisaitl. Pietrangelo gets 5 in a game. He's ejected. It was dirty. And it very well could be suspension worthy because it wasn't a good look. It was dirty. It was deliberate. And that would be crippling for Vegas because he's a great player. There's 3 games left potentially in this series. 5, 6, 7. I think he's going to be suspended. I do. They may suspend him for the rest of the series. I think he'll get 2 games for that. He's 2 playoff games. That's like 4 or 5 regular season games. He may be suspended for the rest of the series, but I certainly don't think he's playing game 5. And the reason you say it's a slash, if you haven't seen the video, go watch it. It's deliberate attempt to injure. It's right over the wrist. It's a huge, huge swing. Baseball swing at him, and it just can't happen. The league can't allow that to happen. It's dirty. Plus, it's on one of the league's best players. That's another thing that goes into this. So there was that. Then later in the third period, Darnell Nurse gets a 5 in a game. He fights Nick Hag. Great tilt. Darnell Nurse is a tough lad. He gives Nick Hag some big punches. Now, if you're given a 5 in a game at the end of the third period, at less than 5 minutes to go in the third period, and you're given a match penalty, you are suspended for the next game. So, as of right now, he will be he will be suspended for Game 5. Now, the league can overturn this, which they should. And I'm just trying to find the wording for you all here because here it is here. Edmonton defenseman Darnell Nurse is facing a potential one-game suspension after receiving an instigator penalty in the final 5 minutes of Game 4. Nurse received the additional penalty after dropping the gloves of Nicholas Hague in the game's final minute. The automatic suspension can be overturned upon review, and Woodcroft argued after Wednesday's game that it should be. And I agree with him. It was dirty at the end of the game. There's a lot going on, and I think myself, this is just the way I grew up watching hockey. Your teammate, your best player, just nearly had his arm chopped off. And you're not going to have a response. You're not going to do anything to acknowledge it. That's not the way you approach it. Yes, the league doesn't want fighting, and that's why you don't want an instigated penalty in the last minute, because you don't want any of that shit to go on. But it's the playoffs. Something happened. My thought here is, I think it's going to be overturned. Darnell Nurse will be playing in Game 5. He had a rough series in round 1. He's playing a lot better. But you don't hear about when he's playing well. Because nobody likes Darnell Nurse for some reason. Anyway, to me, Alex Pietrangelo, dirty play. Dirty play, a play that was not needed, and quite frankly, a stupid one from him. I look at Alex Pietrangelo with a guy with a really high hockey IQ. A former champion who was brought into Vegas to kind of be the player to get them over the top. Him and Mark Stone in lockstep. And you're in a 2-2 series, and the series is as close as you want it to be, and he might be gone now. He might not be available. It's a huge shift. Because as I mentioned, Shea Theodore is their other key defenseman. He didn't play well last night. So if Pietrangelo being out, it adds more stress to Hague. It adds more stress to Whitecloud, to Alec Martinez. It just makes everybody's life a little bit harder because Pietrangelo is their horse. He's their best defenseman. You could argue he's still their best player. I thought in Game 3 he was the best player on the ice. Either team. Just looking at things, he played 23 minutes last night in a 4-1 loss, and he missed time because he took a match penalty. He's playing a ton. So this series is interesting because it's getting, you could argue maybe Pietrangelo took that penalty because of the hits he's taking and the way Edmonton's approaching the game. And that's definitely, emotions boil over and some of that can happen. Vegas needs to clog up the neutral zone. They need to continue to play McDavid the way he's been playing because he hasn't been playing that well, quite frankly. But credit to Ken Holland. He's put a way better supporting cast around the Edmonton Oilers, even from last year, a team that made the conference final. A team that made the conference final, they get swept in the conference finals. They weren't that close to winning. But you get there, that's a step. And Stuart Skinner responded. Played well last night. Didn't have to be great, but he was good when he had to be. For Vegas, Laurent Brossoit is hurt. They've already said Logan Thompson's not going to be available. I don't think it's Hail Mary time for Vegas, but if you don't have Pietrangelo, you're on goaltender number 4. I would go with Jonathan Quick in Game 5 if I'm Vegas. Because what's Aiden Hill, that's your big saving grace. Or if Laurent Brossoit is back, neither of these guys is scary. Jonathan Quick's an older man. He's not what he used to. He's not 2012 Jonathan Quick. He'll never be that guy again. But he played Edmonton last year. He's played Edmonton a ton over his career. They played in the same division since he entered the league. He played well last year in the first round. They lost in 7 games. I would go with Jonathan Quick because I believe he still has something left. Maybe he isn't your starting goaltender the rest of the playoffs. You go back to Laurent Brossoit when he's healthy or whatever happens there. But Aiden Hill looked a little shook last night. The Ekholm goal was weak. The Bouchard shot was good, but I didn't see a guy that was all that sharp last night. I don't think he played fantastic. No Logan Thompson, no Robin Leonard, no Laurent Brossoit. Now it's Aiden Hill or Jonathan Quick. I'm going with Jonathan Quick. Yeah, he's 38 years old, and he's not going to be 2012, 2014 Jonathan Quick. What's Aiden Hill? What's Aiden Hill ever done in this league? What's he doing at this point of his career? He was added as a third goaltender before the season, hoping for insurance. And now he's starting playoff games. It's crazy. You look around. Last night, Aiden Hill, Stuart Skinner, first year in the league, Joseph Wall, rookie, goalie Bob, outlier, Jay Gottinger, second year in the league, already a stud, but again, young. Seattle Kraken, Philip Grubauer. Who saw that coming? And then you got Carolina with Freddie Anderson / Antti Ranta / Korchkov. Who knows who's starting for Carolina on a given day? And then you have Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmid for New Jersey. It's a crazy, the goaltenders that are starting games asked to be in important spots. That's why, to me, having a number one defenseman will always be more important than having a top goaltender. Even as much as I love Vasilevsky, and he's the best goaltender in the world. You could argue he's the best defenseman in the world because he eliminates problems. But for Toronto, I don't think they have a number one defenseman, and I think that's why it makes it tough for them to win a Stanley Cup. Is Brandon Montour a number one defenseman? I think he's playing his ass off. I thought he was Florida's most creative player last night, and he's had a great season, and he's kind of putting himself into that conversation of being a number one defenseman, certainly. So there's a debate that can be had there with him. I want to save the Carolina and those teams till I get to them, but last night's game, Edmonton, I like Darnell Nurse. I think Darnell Nurse is a number one defenseman. Ekholm helps because he adds insurance, but I think Edmonton would have one. Vegas does with Pietrangelo. So those teams, I think, could win a cup. I think it's very tough to win without a number one defenseman because they play a ton of minutes, and you don't even realize it till you look at the box score at the end of the game. Because they're quiet, they do it efficiently, and they keep the puck out of your net. And that's what makes them great. Not the points, not the counting numbers. It's just how they approach the game and how they make everybody's life a little easier. So that's why I look at different teams. I'm like, I don't know if they can do this because I don't know if they have the horse that can play these kind of minutes every game. But we'll see. Carolina, New Jersey. Game 5 tonight in Raleigh. I think the series is over tonight. New Jersey's won 6-1, 6-1, then lost 8-4, and then won 6-1, or maybe 7-1. Every game they've won has been a complete mauling. Jordan Martinook, who's basically a fourth liner, has 10 points in 4 games in this series. Leads the entire second round in scoring. I was watching this game Tuesday night, and I said, well, this is a game changer because it was 1-0 New Jersey, and it was kind of a weak goal on Freddie. And I said, I love that the Canes D gap up in the neutral zone. They stop the rush, and it leads to opportunities the other way. And that's a thing that I think can allow them to go farther and potentially go deep into the playoffs. But I'm watching Carolina, and I'm thinking, this is so weird. It's so perverse. This team did nothing at the trade deadline other than Puljujärvi, who was a healthy scratch the other night. They don't have a superstar. They're nondescript. They have a great coach. But why are they winning? And how can I put what box do I put this team in? They're boring, they're physical, they're tough, all of these things. But they're also fast. They're faster than you give them credit for. Who are the Carolina Hurricanes? And I'm thinking I'm thinking, and this is in the middle of the second period because I damn sure didn't watch the third. I was watching the Celtics blow a game to the 76ers. The Carolina Hurricanes are the 2012 Los Angeles Kings. That is my comparison to this team. LA had a little more skill, yes. But I think the Los Angeles Kings and these Carolina Hurricanes have a lot in common. I'm going to go through it here. Jordan Staal is the eliminator. That's what I call him. You put him against the opposing team's top center, and he will eliminate them or do his damn sure best to do it. Jack Hughes, every time he's had a point in this series, Jordan Staal has not been on the ice. Jack Hughes has 0 points in the 2 games in Carolina. Why? Because Jordan Staal is on the ice every time he hits the ice. Jordan Staal currently is the best of the Stahls. They're all still playing. Jordan could play for a while yet because he doesn't try to score goals. He tries to stop you from scoring goals, and he's fine with that role. That's invaluable. It's hard to teach people to do that because eventually your selfish nature overcomes you. He does not. To me, the comparison for Jordan Staal and the 2012 Los Angeles Kings is Mike Richards. Mike Richards was a superstar in Philly. He was the captain. He was their best player for a period of time, and he gets traded to Los Angeles. And you remember Mike Richards more for being arrested and having some problems at the end of his career, not about how good a player he was or how he played in Los Angeles. He was the checking line. He was a guy that would go against the opposing team's best players and eliminate them. He stopped the cycle. He would forecheck you. He would be on your ass all the time. Mike Richards is Jordan Staal. Jordan Staal was drafted 2nd overall. Jordan Staal was looked at as a prospect that can't miss. He's a future player. He's going to be a number 1, number 2 center. He's going to put up a lot of points. He wasn't looked at as this defensive shutdown guy that he's basically morphed into. Mike Richards, again, top draft pick, good player, really good in the OHL. It was these guys have similar paths. Because Jordan Staal early in Pittsburgh was looked at to be a scorer, and it morphed into the role he has now that he so elegantly plays. That's my comparison. Jordan Martinook. Who is Jordan Martinook? Well, you haven't probably heard of him. Assistant captain for the Hurricanes. He's bounced around the league. He's played in Arizona. He's played for Philly, and now he's in Carolina. A leader of this team quietly, and 10 points in 4 games. Now, he's not a huge scorer. He's not going to be a huge scorer in the regular season, but he's a hard-working guy. He knows where to get the puck, and he's a smart hockey player. My comparison for Jordan Martinook at this point is Dustin Brown. Jordan Martinook is tenacious on the forecheck. He will block shots. He will engage with you physically. He will drop the gloves if he has to, but he also will contribute. He will never score a pretty goal. He doesn't have great hands, but somehow yet he is ultra effective, and you'd want him on your team. Dustin Brown was never going to score a nice goal. He was always just going to be in that area, get some loose change, find a goal, and you live with it. Forecheck, you love him. He's a team leader. But Brown was the captain of the Kings. Martinook is assistant captain here. They have similarities. Dustin Brown's a better player. I will add that. Maybe you'd say it's Dwight King from the 2012 Los Angeles Kings. I don't see it that way. I see Martinook at this point, the way he's playing currently, he is Dustin Brown. He's having that level of impact. He's always around the puck. And again, he's a line that when they're on the ice, he's owning the opposing team's best players. Jesper Bratt and Hischier come over the ice. Martinook says, please send them on. I'm going to go eat their lunch. And 9 times out of 10, he does. Love Jordan Martinook. Smart player. Playing like Dustin Brown throughout these playoffs. Jesperi Kotkaniemi. The guy that was overpaid by the Hurricanes. True. The guy that was drafted too high by the Montreal Canadiens. True. The guy that was played too early by the Montreal Canadiens. True. And now he's in Carolina. And again, you think about the negatives with Kotkaniemi. He can't do this. He's never going to be this. But you got to look at his overall game. Is he still overpaid? Yes. But throughout these playoffs, as a centerman, the way he approaches it, defensively, having a stick in the right situation, he has been great. He has been great, and he's a menace when he's on the ice because he's so big, because he has those long arms. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And the only thing that comes to mind easily is Jesperi Kotkaniemi is Anze Kopitar. 2012 Anze Kopitar. Kotkaniemi can play a defensive role, or he scored some goals in these playoffs. He turns defense into offense. They're both huge men. They both have long sticks. They both love playing both ends of the ice. They back check as hard as they try to score a goal. Kotkaniemi was drafted 3rd overall. But like Jordan Staal, he didn't turn out to be a high draft pick potential. But yet they're on this team together, and they're having success. Kopitar might not have had as much hype as say Kotkaniemi did, but at the same time, you have to be willing to accept what's coming to you. You have to be willing to accept a role that's going to be launched onto your lap. And I look at Kotkaniemi, he's done that in spades. Kopitar did that. You think back to the 2012 Kings. Jeff Carter was scoring goals. Tyler Toffoli, Tanner Pearson. Kopitar was shutting down the team's best players. He was playing against the Sedins. He at times he was on the ice with Dwight King with fourth liners because they liked that situation better. Kotkaniemi to me is for the Hurricanes what Kopitar was to the 2012 Los Angeles Kings. And if you're just joining me, I think to me the comparison, the Carolina Hurricanes are the 2012 Los Angeles Kings, and there's a number of different players that I look at. Jacob Slavin, the best player on the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the best defensemen in the league. And if that's a debate you want to have, let's not, because it's just a fact. Jacob Slavin rarely makes a mistake on the ice. He rarely makes a misstep. He is so good. And this was a tough one because I couldn't say Drew Doughty because Drew Doughty's such a different player than Jacob Slavin. But Jacob Slavin can stop you from creating opportunities. He got an assist the other night because he broke up a play in the middle of the ice. You went down the other way, and they scored a goal on it. Jacob Slavin is a Swiss Army knife, not the Alex Kerfoot Swiss Army knife. This is actually a good knife. Let's say, what country is doing things right now? Not many, so that's kind of tough. Let's just say he's a jack of all trades, Jacob Slavin. That's what he does well, is he doesn't do much wrong. He's always around. He's always in the right situation. And you like him. You like having him on the ice whenever you can. To me, Jacob Slavin is Jake Muzzin. On those Kings teams, Jake Muzzin was playing with Drew Doughty. He eliminated scoring opportunities, and he covered up for guys that would take chances. Drew Doughty loved to take chances. He loved to jump into the rush. He loved to contribute offensively for a good reason. He was the best defenseman in the world at the time. But Jake Muzzin, hang back. He would get the occasional point, but more often than not, he would cover for his defense partner, play extremely well, be physical, whatever he had to do. Jacob Slavin, Jake Muzzin. Jacob Slavin plays with Brent Burns. Brent Burns can be a riverboat gambler. Brent Burns can be a guy that takes too many chances. But it's okay because you have Jacob Slavin with him. I think Slavin and Pesce, if you get into a series and you need a shutdown pair, you have that potential. Clearly, Rob Brind'Amour doesn't see that as a need in this series, which, to be fair, he doesn't really need. But Slavin and Jake Muzzin is my comparison there. I just see this team so similar. And my final one, and I could have found more, Marty Neckash. Marty Neckash, the big winger who's got a big shot and can score goals when you need him to. He gets assists. I love him because he's always around the puck. He's always doing something productive for the team. My comparison here, Marty Neckash is Jeff Carter. 2012, Jeff Carter was lethal. He was playing on one of the best lines in hockey in that 70s line with Tanner Pearson and with Tyler Foley, as I referenced earlier. He scored goals. He got to the net. He engaged physically. Marty Neckash can play dirty if you want him to. He can score a hat trick if you want him to. He got 2 goals the other night. He distributes. To me, he's an invaluable member of the Carolina Hurricanes. He'd be scooped up by a number of teams elsewhere. He scored 25 goals this season. I'm not saying he's not as good as Jeff Carter was in his prime, but the way they both are asked to play, the way Jeff Carter played for Daryl Sutter, I think Rob Brind'Amour is a similar coach. Daryl presents the message, I think, more negative than Rob Brind'Amour would, but it's difficult to play for those two coaches. Carolina's had to play this style for a long time under Rob Brind'Amour, and they've got deep, they've gotten close, but they've never felt like they were going to win the Stanley Cup. I didn't think they had a chance in hell of winning it at the start of the playoffs. I really do now. Because this series is over tonight. Over. The Devils they've booked trips to Cancun. They've got to rebuild. They got to retool, sorry, not rebuild. Are they going to bring Lindy Ruff back? I think they need to add more girth to the team. They need to supplement their talent with some physical players, with some more guys that are willing to go into the corners, create opportunities to get the puck for their skill guys. They have too many skill guys on this team. I think it was set in stone before the year you re-sign Jesper Bratt. I'm not convinced of that anymore because he's not a playoff performer. Can score 40 goals in the regular season. If you don't bring anything in the postseason, how good really are you? But Carolina would scare the hell out of me because they're going to play the same way every series and they don't get shook. They just play every game. They continue to chug away, and before you know it, they have you in a stranglehold. They're like a king cobra, and they wrap themselves around your neck, and then you're eventually out of breath. And before you know it, you're dead. Those are the Carolina Hurricanes. And they will beat you into submission. But if I had to book anything tonight as just a complete stamp it, Canes are moving on to the conference final. They'll be the first team to book their ticket tonight. And they'll wait on the winner of the Panthers and Leafs. But what they're doing is incredibly impressive. Dallas, Seattle. This series is interesting because it's one back and forth, 2-2, Game 5 tonight in Dallas. Miro Heiskanen took a puck to the face in Game 3. Came back in Game 4 in a regulation game, played 30 minutes. Regulation. One of the best defensemen in the league. So valuable to Dallas. Complete machine. Miro Heiskanen. Love everything about him. I watched him before that draft, and I said, he's going too low. He did. Played 31 minutes the other night in that game. Now, you could argue the rest of their D aren't that good. True. But I love, Ottinger hasn't been that good in the series. He's had to play a ton of minutes, and this team has to overcome it. To me, the two best players the other night for Dallas were Miro Heiskanen and Max Domi. People don't like Max Domi for some reason. I don't really get it. He seems to just be a polarizing figure. He's having a big impact. To me, he's always around the puck. He's finding ways to score goals, to be contributing on a bottom tier line, so to speak. but he scored 2 goals the other night. He had an assist on another. Thomas Harley scores a goal. He assists on that one. Then he scores one on the power play from Thomas Harley. He adds the empty net goal. Again, Seattle's getting goals, from a number of guys. Larson scored. Schwartz got another one. And Schwartz scored twice, Seattle want to play their style, which is just completely swarm you. When you get a chance, there's 3 guys on you, and they just take the puck, and before you know it, you don't know what's happening. For Dallas, their best players didn't have to be great in Game 4, and they won the game. Jay Gottinger allowed 3 goals on 19 shots. That's not good. So he hasn't had a great game yet in this series. I think he's going to need one in order to win it. For me, Jason Robertson, I'm kind of giving up on him as a playoff player so far because he's been no good. Rupe Hintz had a great round 1. He's been okay in round 2. But you look at Dallas's, they got a lot of older guys, Sega and Ben, who have a lot of miles on them. So, and if March meant it's going to be a game-time decision night, he left after his second shift of the game. I look more at the depth of Dallas that's going to get them through. And for Seattle, oddly enough, they have way more options than Dallas to win this series. I picked Dallas to win it before it started. I picked Dallas to get to the conference finals before the playoffs started. I don't know. Because I think Grubauer's been better than Ottinger in this series, for one. And I think Seattle has more options when it comes to goal scoring and creating opportunities. For Dallas, their saving grace is they are faster than Seattle, and they have a very good power play. That's how they've won a few games in this series, is just creating opportunities via the power play and making Seattle pay for it. Tonight's game, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Every game's different. Every game, something else happens. In Game 1, Seattle scored 4 goals in the first period. They win the game in overtime. Game 2, Dallas controls the puck. They barely allow Seattle to have it. Second game, Seattle completely whitewashes Dallas 7-2. And then in Game 4, it was closer. It became closer in the third period. But through 40 minutes, Dallas was by far the better hockey team. Dallas needs to play fast. They had 2 power play goals in Game 4. They need to continue to do that. For Seattle, get on the puck, completely swarm guys, and use you're a gnat. That's what Seattle is. They're gnats. They're annoying to play against. They're always around. That is what they need to continue to do. And I think Grubauer got pulled after the second period. It wasn't his fault. The team wasn't playing that great in front of him. He had a great first period. He was locked in. I think he's oozing confidence. Continue to have that. Get in front of Ottinger. He hasn't been that good. Make his life difficult, and don't allow him to get on a run. Because if that dude gets some confidence, this inferior Dallas team, I think Dallas is inferior to Vegas and inferior to Edmonton. I think if he gets on a run, they could get to the Stanley Cup final. Because he's that special of a goaltender. Because he's that damn good. But we'll see. I'm excited for that game tonight. And I mentioned this earlier off the top, but it's official now. The Philadelphia Flyers have hired Keith Jones as president of hockey operations and removed the interim tag from general manager Danny Briere. So the Flyers have their management staff in place. Chuck Fletcher was fired, and they released a statement. Today marks a new era for the Philadelphia Flyers. The team said in a statement, "This is a storied franchise with the most passionate fans in the National Hockey League. Our ultimate goal is to deliver them a championship. Achieving that goal will take time. We intend to honor the incredible history of the Orange and Black while paving a fresh path forward. That starts by creating a winning culture throughout the organization." John Tortorella will still remain the head coach, so he's still hired by the Philadelphia Flyers. He was sitting with Danny Briere at the end of the year, which is interesting. But Philadelphia Here's some other news. Sounds like Matthew Nyes is feeling better day by day. He will have to be cleared. Not sure that happens before Game 5, plus the lease. So it sounds like he could be back maybe through Game 6. That's a possibility. But Philadelphia has their management in which is good for them. They've had some terrible decisions as of late, in my opinion, and they needed. I'm not sure these are the right guys. I don't know. Keith Jones, who's never done it. Danny Briere, who's barely been on the job. We'll see. But Chuck Fletcher wasn't working, and he's had a ton of experience. So you go with somebody who has none. You just do the complete opposite of what you did before, and that's normally how these organizations do business. So TNT will have to find a new person. Keith Jones is gone. Turner will be looking for a new analyst. I'm available. I mean, hard to live up to Keith Jones, but I mean, I am available. So if you need somebody, give me a call, Turner. Let's go to UFC. Yeah, UFC yesterday. Dana White announced that he had some announcements and a number of funny things here. So he announced the card for UFC 290. And it's fantastic, which is during International Fight Week in July. The main event is Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez for the undisputed featherweight title. Yair beat Josh Emmett in February. So these two will square off in the main event. It's a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. Volk is coming off a loss to Islam at lightweight. But again, Volk is one of the best, in my opinion, to ever get inside the octagon, any weight class. And it's just a fun fight. It's a good one. And it's a good one to headline International Fight Week. The co-main event, this will be another 5-round fight. Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja 2 for the flyweight title. Moreno defeated Davison Figueiredo in January. He's now back to fight Pantoja, who defeated him in the UFC earlier in their careers. So Pantoja's climbed the ranks. He will get to fight Brandon Moreno, settle a score. To me, Moreno's improved so much over his life, especially with the battles with Figgy and how good he is and just his striking and everything he brings to the table. Another fun fight. The third fight on the card is a middleweight bout between Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis. This is the fight that makes no sense. Champion Israel Adesanya just defeated Alex Pereira. And he knocked him out. Big celebration, big moment for him. He talks about Dricus after the bout. He says, I want to drag his carcass all around Africa. Dricus talked about how Izzy's not really an African. He is because he lives in South Africa. So they have that, and it's a cringy battle, but it's beef nonetheless. Good show on Netflix, by the way. So Dricus versus Izzy. If you can book this in July, why wouldn't they have booked Izzy versus Dricus for this event? Maybe you don't want to do it. It's too soon. You push one of these other fights back a month. It could have happened. But instead you go Robert Whittaker versus Dricus. And this is tricky because Rob has defeated everybody but Izzy. He fought Izzy twice. He got knocked out in Melbourne, and then he lost in Houston, Texas. 2 fights, 2 losses to the current champion. But Dana White comes out and says, we're going to have Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis, title eliminator. The winner will fight Izzy later in 2023. Here's the problem. I don't think anybody wants to see Rob fight Izzy again. To me, it's not something people want to watch. I thought the second fight was close, but I don't love trilogy fights. I like seeing new matchups. Pereira, Izzy, the second one in UFC made sense because they had They had beef. Izzy was a long-standing champion. I understood it. I don't think there's a chance in hell Dricus beats the Reaper. He's not beating Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is one of the best, just pure fighters of his generation, except Izzy's just better. And the way how big Izzy is, his size advantage over Robert Whittaker, it makes it extremely difficult for him to win that fight. So I think Whittaker's going to beat Dricus, and you're going to get Whittaker versus Adesanya 3, and nobody wants to see it. I don't think Adesanya wants to fight Whittaker again. He clearly wants to fight Du Plessis. I would scrap this card altogether. I've heard Chael Sonnen make this argument, and I agree with him. This fight makes no sense. Why was this booked? It's marquee. You got two names that really make a whole lot of sense. And is it nice to have a third fight with Robert Whittaker on International Fight Week? Absolutely, I get it. But what does it really accomplish? It gets Dricus, a guy in the middleweight division who hasn't fought for the title. He's going to get his first loss in the UFC. And again, I'm looking ahead here, but that's how I think it's going to go. He's going to get his first loss, and you eliminate one of the title challengers. It was Volk's argument when Holloway fought Arnold Allen. Now, Arnold Allen's coming off a loss. He's nowhere closer to the title. Who is Volk fighting after Yair? If he beats him, who's his next title fight? It's not going to be Max Holloway because they fought 3 times, and Volk's 3-0. You could argue Henry Cejudo makes more sense. That's what's the argument that I make, is it's a fresh fight. He's fought Brian Ortega. He's not fighting Josh Emmett unless Josh Emmett comes up with a big win. Is he going to fight Ilya Topuria? Maybe, because he just hasn't fought him yet. But in the middleweight division, Izzy's fought everybody. He's fought Cannonier. He's fought Vettori twice. He's fought Paulo Costa. He hasn't fought Chimaev. That's the only one. That's the one that would make sense. But Chimaev isn't fighting. There's no news on him. What's happening? And if Chimaev fights in October, when's Izzy fighting? They're not going to book Izzy in Abu Dhabi. I don't think so. He's a headliner. People love watching him fight. Are they going to book him as a co-main on the John Jones heavyweight card in November at MSG? I don't think so. Is he going to fight in Vegas in December? Maybe. It's kind of the worst pay-per-view. People don't care about it. You're right before Christmas. So you're getting logjam here. And if these two fight in July, neither of them are going to be ready to fight Izzy in September. So it creates problems. So Dana White has said, either guy wins, they get a championship opportunity. It makes all the sense in the world if it's Du Plessis, but it's not going to be. Pereira wants to move to 205. Okay. Well, that's another guy that would make sense fighting Izzy. Not going to happen. Do you just wait? Is that fight in 2024? Is Izzy only going to fight once this year? I don't think he wants to do that. He likes to be an active champion. He prides himself on that. Because other than that, Costa fought, Cannonier fought, Vettori twice, Rob Whittaker twice, Pereira twice. Strickland hasn't fought him, but clearly that's not something that's that interesting to UFC. Brunson beat him. Roman Dolise too low. Hermanson, no. Gastelum beat him. Chris Curtis, you get too low. So the only one that makes sense is Chimaev. If I was the UFC, what I would have done is I would have booked Du Plessis versus Adesanya. I would have. And I think Adesanya would have schooled him. But again, it's a fight people want. It's a fight Izzy wants. It's a fight Du Plessis wants. People will watch it. And I would have booked the Wolf, Khamzat Chimaev, against the Reaper in Robert Whittaker. Chimaev's first fight at 185 is the second best middleweight of his generation, Robert Whittaker. How good are you, Chimaev? And if you beat Robert Whittaker, you are the number 1 contender. That's the title eliminator. Robert Whittaker went on Ariel's show and he says, I deserve to fight for another, I deserve another chance at the title. Give me another opportunity. I beat everybody but Israel. Yes, you have. But we're not giving you a third fight without a huge win. And Du Plessis is not that huge win. Go beat the true Reaper. Go beat the guy everybody's afraid of, that nobody wants to step in the cage with. Go beat Khamzat. You get your third chance. That booking would have made way more sense. Why Chimaev's not fighting? I don't know. People said he can't get to the United States. There's a visa issue. All right? You can work shit out. You can figure some stuff out. What if they had Chimaev versus Whittaker for International Fight Week? And then in August, you go with Izzy and Du Plessis at a pay-per-view in Boston. Because I think they're targeting Jamal Hill and Yuri Prohaska for that fight now. Who knows if that happens? Yuri's always injured. The stuff happens. The light heavyweight division is completely in flux. Who knows? I don't. And I love the UFC and I follow it daily. I just find this booking strange. It's weird. I think they could have done a whole lot better job with it. Fourth fight, lightweight fight that was supposed to happen a number of months ago in March. Jalen Turner coming off a loss to Gamrot against Dan Hooker. Fun fight. Both guys are kind of surging contenders. They both want to get in a position at lightweight to get an opportunity. I like the fight. It's fun. You rebook it. All for it. And the fifth fight on the main card, Bo Nickel, who won his first fight against Jamie Pickett in a number of seconds. He will get Tresean Gore, who's another Dana White Contender Series prospect, a guy people like in the middleweight division. Bo Nickel is really getting the bump. He's the next prodigy type guy because he's been putting on cards. I look at it as the Rahul Raz Jr. bump. I don't know how good he is. His first fight, he hit a guy in the junk, then grappled him to the ground, and he won the fight. Great. I think he's got talent. I don't think we haven't seen anything of his punching power. If you just think you're going to win against these guys in the UFC by getting them to the ground, good luck, boy. How'd that work for Kron Gracie? He couldn't strike. I think for Bo Nickel, we need to see an evolution of his striking. We need to see him do it in the cage before I really start to think this guy's a prospect that could be a future champion. Prelims. Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price. Robbie Lawler, former champion, former welterweight champion. It will be his retirement fight, so big moment for him. Huge, and one of my favorites on this card, this fight. Prelims. Sean Brady, number 9th ranked welterweight, fighting JDM, Jack Della Maddalena, who's a surging contender, knocking people out. Sean Brady's last fight against Bilal Muhammad, he was knocked out in Abu Dhabi. This is on any other event, this is on the main card. This is a huge fight. And quite frankly, it's a better fight than 4 and 5 of the preliminary card. But you book it for prelims. It's on ABC. Do you want eyes to watch it? I get it. Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena. Awesome fight. Can't wait for it. And then this is the strange one. They said Davison Figueiredo was supposed to fight Manel Kape, a flyweight bout, on the prelims. But then Davison Figueiredo came out and said, no, I can't fight. I haven't been medically cleared yet. So Dana White, what's happening, bro? What's happening, my guy? He can't fight. So who knows? Strange, though. Just strange. But I think the card's really good. I think they could have been better. I think it could have been way better. And again, it's my idea, so I'm going to think it's better than what people say. But again, it could have been better. But solid card. Dana White also announced UFC's returning to London in July with a fight night. Tom Aspinall The great heavyweight's returning. He fought last March, tore his ACL in a fight against Curtis Blades. He will return against Marcin Tybura. He's number 5. Tybura's ranked 10. Heavyweight main event. Molly McCann will be in that card. A number of other favorite English fighters. Should be great to see Tom Aspinall back in the cage at the O2. This evening in the NBA, 2 Game 6s. Celtics, Sixers, Nuggets, Suns. Celtics and Suns both have to win to keep their series going. Joel Embiid was fantastic in Game 5. The Celtics were not. Jason Tatum at times looked like the only player that wanted to play on the court, but also it was strange because Jaylen Brown had no energy. He didn't attack. He didn't play with any kind of fervor. It was a strange game for the Celtics. It was nowhere close. I expect them to bounce back. Last year, in the second round, they lost Game 5 at home to the Milwaukee Bucks. They went in Game 6 in Milwaukee, won that game, and then won Game 7 at home. They had the opportunity to do the same thing this year, Groundhog Day. I don't know. Tyrese Maxey was great the other night on the road. Embiid was locked in. Harden did what he had to do, and Tobias Harris, when he was on the floor because he was in foul trouble, was efficient. For the Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both have to play hard together. We haven't seen that enough in this series. The Celtics are the better team. They should be so much. You get by the Sixers, you get the Knicks or the Heat in the conference final, and you should mop the floor with either of them because you're way better. The Heat are half a team and they're still playing. Crazy. The Knicks beat them last night, but the Heat have the opportunity to close that series out tomorrow night in Miami, which we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Tonight's NBA games, I'm going back to the well with the Celtics. I shouldn't, the way they played, but they're the better team in this series. Will big change happen? Joe Mazzulla is not going to get fired if they lose this series. But Tatum and Brown, do they want to stick together? Does it work? Is it going to be a pair that can win you a championship? Al Horford's getting a year older. Derek White will want more money eventually. Robert Williams, what is he as a player? Is he just now a bench center now? Who knows? It's interesting. I got the Celtics winning tonight, forcing a Game 7. We'll see if I'm right about that. And I got the Suns winning tonight in Phoenix, forcing Game 7 back in Denver. 2 best players and your role players play better at home. Bruce Brown was awesome for the Nuggets in Game 5. Role player. He won't be that good tonight. I think the Suns players step up. They find a way to win tonight, force a Game 7 back in Denver, Colorado. So that's good. That's it for today. Oh, did you catch that Bo Bichette error in extras yesterday? Woof. But we got more coming this week. More coming. We'll recap the games from tonight. Talk about them tomorrow. UFC card this weekend in Charlotte. So be sure to touch on that later in the week. We got the Byron Nelson in golf this weekend going on. We got the PGA Championship a week from today starting. That should be fantastic. No Tiger Woods. Had ankle surgery announced yesterday. He won't be participating. But this weekend at the Byron Nelson, you got guys like Scotty Scheffler. Ever heard of him? Hideki Matsuyama. Matt Kuchar, one of my favorites. Canadians Adam Hadwin. You also have, so I'm going through the list here. Bryce Garnett, Harry Higgs, Seamus Power, Tom Hoagie. S.H. Kim, good golfer. He's playing well lately. Good, a solid crew in solid players down there at the Byron Nelson a week before a major. All you can really ask for. So excited for that. So hope you guys all have a great Thursday. Be back with you guys tomorrow, which obviously is Friday, which is a great day. So enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is To The Point.